Okay, guys, we're back. As I say, happy with that type generally, in sense of it being the right content. Just need to work on the formatting. So all we need to really do now is tidy this up into a singular icon and resolve the typography and layout here. So I'm going to start with the type now. Normally, you could just continue blocking this out using, in this case, Maven Pro. What I'd like to do at this stage is bring in the fonts. So what I did was open another copy of the document, find the original image like this, and then I went looking. I decided to use Google fonts. These are sort of freely available fonts which can be used in the web. So if this were a website, we could use them. But there are a number there that sort of fulfill this piece of type here. Looks a little bit like Gill Sans, but there are aspects of it that are different. So I'm looking for something that is similar. What I have discovered, if you go through your choose thing, type in a bit of text that you're looking for, like this chapter 7, notice some of the basic shapes in it, scroll through, I've popped in chapter 7, scroll through some of the fonts that are available. You can preview what it would look like in different fonts. So I've decided it may well be either this font here, which is Open Sans. I think there's another one called Lato that I've also decided it could be. So I've added those to a collection inside Google Fonts. I did the same for this ultra fine one for the time, and I have those already in here. It's called Advent Pro. Doesn't look normal when you've got that in, but if you see, if I replace this, it's got quite a distinctive 2 in here. And I think that's quite similar, and obviously there are multiple weights for some of these fonts, and to me that looks like it's the font that we're using. So I've added them all to collection. Then when you go to use, obviously if I were to load all of these with all their weights into a website, I have a massive performance hit. Okay, now I'm not doing that. In this case I'm using Illustrator, so I just want to click here and download as a zip font. Okay, you can also go in if you're using it on a website and copy the code, but for now I'm just going to hit download and it will add to the bottom and it's downloaded in the background. Okay, so pop that out the way now and we'll come back and just get rid of that one and save, and we're into here. Okay, so I'm going to try this out in Open Sans. Start typing it and it changes. Now you can see why I didn't bother adjusting all the scaling and stuff, because once you start bringing in fonts, you may find that the spacing is a little bit different. A lot of designers like to tweak the character letter spacing, etc. So at the moment this is using automatic spacing. Now sometimes with web fonts and free fonts, they're not very well spaced out. So certain letters like the A and the P look wider apart than the P and the T. So we can use the auto settings under the type character palette. If you don't have this open, it's Command or Control T to bring it up. I'm going to switch to optical, which to me looks better already. And I can even also start pulling the text in a little bit, giving it a negative, this is called tracking, which is the letter spacing between all the letters. So basically I'm just closing it up a little bit, okay, to make it a little bit more tense. I think the weight is about right, and that looks pretty good. Once I've got one, then in theory, should be able to eyedropper it onto all the others. Now you can see I've lost my paragraph settings because I didn't set them on the top one, so they're 13 point. So let's just put them in here. And then if I use my eyedropper and copy it, it should position them. That again is looking pretty good, so I'm probably fairly happy that it is that font. If I wasn't sure, I could try the other one. Trying to remember what it was called. What did I download? I downloaded Lato and Advent Pro. So let's try Lato just in case. So come in here and type in Lato. Okay, now again, I need to go back to 0 on this. I'm seeing perhaps some differences. A little bit hard to see when it's absolutely overlaid. Yeah, the numbers don't look the same to me. So I'm going to go back, just undo Control Z to this one. If it's too strong with bold, try a little lighter, maybe semi-bold is better. Again, this may result in a little bit of adjustment to the spacing. Again, if I've done it once, I can pick it up and apply to my other elements that are formatted the same. Okay, let's try this in the same. So we're with open sans. It's looking pretty good. We've got a smaller type size. I think it's probably 12. We've actually got more leading line spacing, which is this one here. So you use that, nudge it down to get it in the right position. Just deselect if that's maybe one size too small. Okay, we've also potentially got a bit more spacing on this one, so we're going to put a positive setting on this. Maybe even go up a bit more. Okay, I move across a little bit so we can see. To me, this looks actually smaller, so I'm going to set that back to 0, and I'm going to take the size down a couple of points for that bit. We need to sort the alignment out next. Spell calculus here. So I select the element I want to copy, come in and copy it. Perhaps I need to boost this one to semi-bold as well. Maybe it's a bit light. I think the due today is a little lighter. Maybe not, actually. Let's just undo. You can see here when I type this, I didn't make it capitals, so I can actually do that in the character palette here, all caps. So you can format things that way. The due tomorrow is a different format. Using the type tool, just going through like so, capitals, eyedropper, copy the style. Eyedropper, etc. Okay, so we're pretty good there. What we have got here is it looks like it's come slightly out of whack. So this is probably needing to go down to 12 because of the change of line spacing. So we'll make it 12 on each of these. Okay, and perhaps this might actually be a tad too big, so we'll make it 17. It just needs a little bit of refining like this. Again, these things would be passed to a programmer in the end. It may be the person who mocked this up in Photoshop didn't even use the sort of standard formatting, and it changes and the spacing isn't right, etc. So I don't want to compensate too much to match the background. I want it to make kind of sense logically. So I know that these are all well spaced out and structured, so we can reproduce this in the system. Okay. Final thing to do is just to move these tabs over to this side. Okay. So again, I'm going to copy that element, and I'm going to bring up my tab palette. Now, normally I use a shortcut for this. It's hidden underneath the window. If you go down to type, it's going to be at the bottom of my screen. Unfortunately, there's tabs. Okay, and that brings up your tab palette like this. You can see where things should be aligned, etc. I'm just going to stretch this out a little bit past. So for this, we want to put a tab marker in default. There, line center. I want a line right, and I'm going to just drag it to the edge here and let go. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same, selecting this, and I'm going to copy the style off the other one, so I don't have to repeat. So using the eyedropper just to pick up style data off other elements. So we've got our layout working quite well. There might even be need for another space in there again. Probably not the way it should be done, but the way they've done it in the mock-up. So I'm pretty good with that type. Again, just to be coherent, we probably want this to be open sans. Okay, we may wish to adjust the size. Let's zoom in a bit and see, maybe not. We're going to leave it at 0 at the moment. I just need to nudge it roughly into the right position. You can use the eyedropper, pick up the style. Now this one, because it's going to be an icon, it looks like a perfect match. I'm not going to change because it's not actually a live piece of text. It's part of the icon, I imagine. You could always try it and see if there's any notable difference. Appears to be pretty similar. Might as well do it for consistency's sake. Up here again, I'm going to guess that's open sounds. It looks similar. I'm going to increase the weight, but I'm going to close up the letter space. I'm going to put a minus, too much, minus 25. How about that? Okay. And again, I'm going to go to optical so that it sorts out. You can see the gap between these two ones. Excuse me. Cleans that up a little bit. What I will do in a minute is align all these things. I'll just do it for now by eye, but often the problem with copying like somebody else's Photoshop work is very often they just won't be very disciplined about it, and you'll find that they just slap things on the page and guess it's in the center. As I've said before, I like to be bang on so that I know that exactly what it's going to come out like. These will be aligned by code. And then this one, that font was called Advent. So again, just back in here, hit Advent Pro. I'm going to use the thin one. We may have the wrong font. Go light. Doesn't look quite wide enough, so I could go and look for another font that's similar. In this case, I'm going to cheat and stretch it a little bit. You can see this is too square, so it isn't the right font, but for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is just sort of use this for now. Again, I'm going to use optical, sort of space it out a little bit more, and I might find that I still need to go in occasionally and just mess with it. You can see here it's trying to close this up. Normally you'd want that closer, but I'm going to set it to 0 because in this case I don't want it to interfere with the gap between the colons. They should have clear space. So I'm just going to make sure they're all 0 on either side, and I might even come in here and fiddle with this one a little bit as well. Okay, so I'm kind of getting there. Only final thing to do is put the date in up the top here. Wednesday. They've got, looks like a US format. Obviously, you might want to localize that. It's entirely up to you. So again, might look at changing size on that. That's just, it is open sans, so I'll leave it where it is. What I will do instead is I will close it up a little bit. Main thing I want to do is I don't want it aligned center. This would come in from the right here, so I want to align right and just move that into position. So it's not a bad guess. Okay, we're nearly there. Final thing might be just to make this, open this up a bit. So about there. Okay, we're pretty much done now with the type, and we are ready basically to finish this and tidy it up. Okay, which we will do in the next section. Okay, so that was type control, principally using a combination of character attributes in the character palette and paragraph attributes as well to space out volumes of text rather than manually spacing things with spaces and using tabs, etc., rather than sort of messing with it, if you like. If you felt any of these things were a bit light, you can again go in and, you know, fiddle. It's just to get it fairly close. So what I might do is make this a tiny bit stronger, and then I could affect it later with color, because in the original this is knocked back. Although at the moment you want a thing in visual design, it's often referred to as dominance. You want one thing to be dominant over the other. So I'm going to give this dominance in terms of its color in the end rather than in terms of its weight. Okay, so see you in the next tutorial, and we will tidy up and start making the final assets.